Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what to do, everybody? It's your boy, John Altidor, Pro Fan Sports Podcast, back at you with another one with my boys, Vlad, Barry, and back on the show. Thank goodness. It's sports director at iHeartRadio's Boston's cluster, WBZ News Radio. This guy's doing everything out there, DraftKings, you name it. He's on it. Adam Kaufman, thanks for coming back on the show, man.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Not much, man. You know, NBA season back full-fledged. You know, it's early in the season, man. You know, what are we, like 10 games in, 11, whatever it is, and it hasn't lacked the drama. You know?
Certainly not.
It's not the good drama, though. You know what I mean? Like, normally with the NBA, it's like the fun drama, like, you know, whoever, like Joel Embiid going after somebody on social media, or, you know, like Pat Bev stuff talking about Russell Westbrook, or like just sort of like the sort of boys will be boys, sort of entertaining everybody kind of drama. This is the wrong drama. What we're seeing with Ime Udoka and Kyrie Irving and Josh Primo, and, you know, obviously Steve Nash is out the door in Brooklyn, you name it. Like this isn't the fun drama that we all like to celebrate.
Yeah, I think you just mentioned some of that stuff, right? Ime, Kyrie Irving. You know, I think the big news of today, right? Jack Vaughn has been named head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. You know, it was reported that Ime was the guy, you know, and I think some guys were upset, you know, I think myself included, because of the move. I was of the mind that maybe he'd be coming back at some point, you know, maybe next year.
That's dead, man. That's not, you can get that idea right out of your head. There's no chance.
I mean, you know, the other thing is, you know, the rumors came out that the Celtics were willing to let him go without actually getting anything for him, and you know, that was messing with me a little bit, because I'm like, man, he had a pretty good rookie season as a head coach, you know, taking us to the finals. You know, but I guess he's in a real sticky situation with what's going on right now, and Brooklyn decided to go another direction. There was reports about them, you know, being apprehensive about bringing him on. What do you know about what went on there, and you know, what is you know, thinking behind their decision?
Well, just think about, you know, the things that you just said. The Celtics seem to be willing to just let Ime Udoka go without any compensation. I'll take it a step further. I think they were happy to let him go without any compensation, just to be done with the issue, just to move on. And so it just, you look at everything, right? Like you consider all the different factors, the various things that have come out that have been reported associated with his situation during his time as the Celtics head coach, leading to his year-long suspension, not by the league, but by the team, obviously, to the point where, like you said, phenomenal rookie season as a first-time head coach in the league, takes the team to the NBA Finals, 2 wins away from a championship, and yet they didn't even, at least publicly seemingly, hesitate to first say, you know what, right before training camp, you're not coaching our team anymore. And second to that, oh, Brooklyn, you want him? All right, take him. We're done. We're good. We don't have to pay him anymore. He's your problem now. And then for Brooklyn to dive into the situation, whether it was internal pressure, there was a report that some members of that organization, in particular female members of that organization, were not comfortable with Ime Udoka coming over and coaching that team. Maybe you mix it up with what's going on, obviously, with Kyrie Irving, which is a totally separate issue, but just drama that is involved combative situation and really just a series of bad looks going on in that organization right now, that maybe they didn't want another headache. But the report from Shams Charania from The Athletic earlier today said that they went in that different direction with Jacques Vaughn in part because of a series of factors. I think that's an important term, a series of factors that were revealed during the due diligence stage of considering bringing Ime in. Now, maybe that's just Shams being fed something and he went with it, and that's Brooklyn trying to save face because, again, members of their organization weren't comfortable. Or maybe it just speaks to, hey, there's a lot more out there involving this situation that we don't know about yet, and this is bad, and nobody wants to touch this guy right now. It doesn't mean he'll never, as Matt Barnes said once upon a time, that he'll never get a job again in the NBA. I don't believe that. But I certainly didn't believe, even as it was happening, I found it hard to believe that he would find another job in the NBA this season. And I think Brooklyn walking away from this opportunity probably seals the deal on that. I don't think there's going to be another team that, even if another team fires its coach midseason, I don't think there's going to be another team that says, yeah, that Udoka guy, let's look into that, because I just don't think it's worth it. It's not worth it for a number of reasons, PR reasons included, regardless of what he could or couldn't do on the floor to try and transform your team. I think, he probably will be coaching somewhere next year. It just, let all the due diligence play out, any legal situation that may be involved in this play out. Get to the offseason where teams can just take a breath and examine everything that is involved in this, that things that they are hearing about and learning about that we don't even know about seemingly, and go from there. But, I think the Celtics, just to go full circle on this, I honestly, I kind of feel bad for them, and because I think they were very ready to at least close this chapter for their organization, and now he's right back to, he's not their problem. That's not the right way to put it, but he's right back to sort of like being an issue that they have in the back burner.
Yeah, he's the Celtics issue right now. You touched on a lot of the questions I actually had, because it seems like Ime's definitely he's radioactive right now.
He's the third rail, man. That's what he's at.
It's kind of crazy. Woj came out and said that, he probably will coach in the league again. I was watching Shannon Sharp's podcast, and John Sally said, he's probably not going to coach again, and the situation being what it is, how can another team, take a chance on that? I'm trying to figure that out. If I didn't think it made sense for the Nets to go after him, period, because of everything that's going on. That to me, that was just stupid, but, next year somebody's going to be open, and, given everything that's going on here, would it be smart for any other franchise to actually give him another chance?
It's hard to say, right? I think that it's sort of impossible for me or for you guys to answer that question without knowing the full scope of
Right.
what went on in Boston. But I think if at least behind closed doors, that is all revealed, there's nothing hidden, everything is properly communicated to organization X, you name it, and it's deemed that, all right, well, this guy screwed up clearly, but this isn't, this doesn't border on something that is illegal and ongoing lawsuits, and take this wherever in your mind to the nth degree of, oh man, like this is dark, this is dirty, this is a problem, like we can't even be associated with this guy. If it doesn't go to that, and it just, if it kind of goes as far as maybe it wasn't completely consensual, but it wasn't assault, it wasn't anything that required a police matter. It was just like he was a little too aggressive over text. It made some people uncomfortable, and maybe he can sort of get the proper counseling and therapy and learn and better himself, and you can say, okay, does he deserve a second chance, right? I mean, that's when it comes to the Bruins right now. Like, how much have we been talking about, do people deserve second chances? How much has that been a story over these last few days? Well, this, with Ime Udoka, that's what teams are going to have to decide once they fully know what went on. Does he deserve a second chance? And I do think there'll be a team that gives him one. Now, I don't think it's out of the question to think that he could theoretically return to the league next year as an assistant somewhere and kind of start paying his dues again. then maybe after a year gets another head coaching job, like a couple of years from now. I think that's possible. Everything with Brooklyn, it seemed desperate. It seemed quick. It seemed, as you said, stupid. It made sense in the sense that he used to be an assistant there. He had relationships there. He'd worked there. Familiar with a lot of the players there, and obviously a good head coach. He showed that last year. And Brooklyn, a team that's so desperate to win, was willing to potentially overlook certain things. In those ways, it made sense. But we're in 2022, and now PR matters just as much as anything else. And it should, by the way. And I think that, the organization ultimately looked at it, whether it was Adam Silver, making a phone call to Joe Tsai, the owner, and saying, hey, no, don't do that. I know that we can't fully prevent you from doing it, but we really don't want you to do it, so you should listen to us. Maybe that happened, or maybe the Nets just wisened up and said, this is not smart. We're getting pushback here. We got to not do this. Whatever combination of things led to them going with Jacques Vaughn, one of the good guys in the game, by the way, who was like long overdue for an opportunity. It landed the right way, and now, we wait and see on Ime's future and what that looks like, but I think it's going to take a while.
Yeah, I mean, maybe whatever team needs to give him some stipulations, like Kyrie Irving, right? Like some sensitivity stuff, some, pay some, I don't know. I'm trying to make a joke here, but I don't think it's very funny.
No, but it's like, seriously, like what kind of stipulations do you put in place when it's Ime Udoka? Like, don't have any contact with any females in this office.
Right.
That's not okay. You can't see that married woman over there? Stay away.
Don't even breathe.
Keep away, Ime.
Adam, do you know the story? Do you know what happened?
I certainly don't know the full story. I know.
What do you know?
Well, I mean, I couldn't really get into anything more than what's been reported, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's not even. It's one, like, it's, obviously we're all curious, but like it's none of our business. That's part of it. But then the other part is, you hear a lot of stuff. You hear a lot of whispers, and you don't know fully what's true and what's not. Like, I haven't gone out and personally vetted certain things to where I could say, like, with certainty, oh, this happened and this happened. And not that I would anyway, because it wouldn't be my place. I'm not looking to like break this story or whatever. But even the stuff that I have heard that isn't out there, I don't know with 100% certainty that it happened versus it just being, hearsay from a third party. So it's, I think that, I've talked to a couple people that do know, or people that I trust that say they do know, at least more than I know, but say they know the whole thing. And it, the implication that I've received is it's not good. It's that there's more to what we've heard, publicly, and that it's, there's a reason why the Celtics were so willing to just get him out of there and be done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to believe that because this stuff is strange, there's no more detail. And because on the surface, it seems like, the guy, was doing whatever he was doing. It's none of our business. Why is it taking this long, whatever? Why is he getting suspended for a year? I think a lot of Celtics fans, have been questioning a lot, as well as the players, it seems like. But, like you said, I don't think we'll get to the bottom of that. But,
the players, I'm glad you brought up the players because we haven't talked about them. The players need to get it through their heads. Listening to Marcus Smart, listening to Jaylen Brown, talking, I think it was Adam Himmelsbach in the Globe that he wrote that article just in the last few days, half week, whatever it was, since that announcement came down. They need to realize he's not coming back. Like, I realize that, technically, now he could again, in that he's not going to Brooklyn, but he's not. Like, this is done. Marcus Smart, Jaylen, anybody else who hasn't gone on the record that may be talking about it behind closed doors, this is Joe Mazzulla's team now. And if it's not Joe Mazzulla's team, like, let's say this year goes badly, it started strong, but it goes badly, and they get knocked out in the first round, and Brad and company decide, all right, maybe Joe's not our guy, which, by the way, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think Joe Mazzulla is your coach of the future right now. But let's just say he's not. And there's another new head coach next year for this team, which would be the fourth head coach in 4 years, which is amazing when you think about the stability of the Boston Celtics organization, by the way. But let's just say that were to happen. It's not Ime. Ime is not coming back. The organization is not comfortable with Ime Udoka being the head coach of this team, not behind closed doors and not publicly at this point. They may like him. They may like him as a guy. They may still hope he gets his life in order. And I'm certain that they wish none of this happened and he was still coaching their team, but it did. And he screwed it up. Like the Ime Udoka, this needs to be, you listen to like Stephen A. Smith and whoever else, like this needs to be made abundantly clear. Ime Udoka is not the victim here. Ime Udoka did this. Whatever this is, the this here, whatever the this is, Ime Udoka put himself into this situation. If Ime Udoka's not, dipping his pen in the company ink, then none of this happens. He's still coaching the team. None of what we've been talking about for the last however long and for, weeks and months on end at that, none of it's a thing. If Ime Udoka simply controls himself and doesn't, piss away an incredible opportunity with a marquee franchise in the NBA after working over a decade as an assistant coach and building his life toward getting this chance and reaching the NBA Finals in year one, and then just up in smoke, lets it all go because whatever it is that he decided was worth it, or he wasn't going to get caught or whatever, he's not being made an example of here. At least I don't believe that. I believe that he is guilty for doing whatever it is that he did, even if it's just, he broke the team's moral and ethical codes and didn't do anything illegal, but did something that he knew he shouldn't be doing and was told to stop and kept doing it anyway. Ime made his bed. Now he's got a lie in it. There's just there's no refuting that.
He certainly fumbled the bag, man. That's unfortunate for him, but
absolutely got that right.
He's the one, like I said, man, the NBA is not lacking any drama this year. And, another guy, Kyrie Irving, man, who's serving a suspension. I think he's serving his, third, fourth game right now because he was suspended for 5 games.
At least 5 games.
Right.
5 games.
5 games. Could be more.
Potentially come back after 5 games, the word potential. And there's been a lot of uproar about, the stipulations put in front of him to kind of like go through to be able to come back. And, Jaylen Brown came out and made a statement about, how a lot of the players, they're kind of uncomfortable with, everything that's being put in front of him. And a lot of, the talking heads have been saying it's kind of unfair and, he's being put in a bad spot. What are your thoughts on the stipulations? Do you think it's too much or is it just?
So it's complicated. And I certainly see the issue from the Players Association in wanting to defend their guy, for the sake of this, like things like this are going to happen again. And it's important to have sort of guidelines and baseline punishments. And this is different. This is different than anything, obviously, that an organization or the NBA has put forward in terms of compliance, basically, to be able to return again. And maybe it is a little bit extreme and unrealistic that he could, in such a short period of time, fully abide by everything that is there. Like a donation is easy, and agreeing to go to classes is easy, and meeting with this representative and this leader, that's easy, and putting out, an apology statement is easy. But it still takes time to sort of go down the checklist. Where I don't feel bad, though, and say what you want about Kyrie Irving, and I've said plenty about him before, but where I don't feel bad is this is an opportunity where, again, a guy had multiple opportunities to just apologize. Like, how many times did the Nets owner or Adam Silver or, members of the Anti-Defamation League or the coaching staff, you name it, like how many times was it put out there into the ether? Kyrie, listen, if you just go in front of the microphones and say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have tweeted out that video. I certainly am not anti-Semitic. I don't believe everything that was in that video. I do think maybe there were some interesting things to consider, and none of those are hateful or against Judaism or what have you. But I think that, I'm just sort of challenging people to think differently, and all the different things that obviously that he has been saying for years, that word salad that drive people crazy. But I'm sorry, and I truly hope I didn't offend anyone out there listening, my fans, my teammates, my organization, members of the ADL. It's so easy. It's so easy. And it's what he did after the fact on Instagram, after the suspension came out. But it was one of those that was too little too late. And so these stipulations that were all put into play. If he had just apologized, all he had to do was apologize. They took him away from the media for days, and they finally gave him an opportunity to go in front of the cameras and microphones again. And he was asked, "Are you sorry?" And he wouldn't say sorry. "Are you anti-Semitic?" He wouldn't say yes or no. Point blank. Yes or no. Are you anti-Semitic? "I can't be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from." Yeah, what does that mean? Are you anti-Semitic? "I can't be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from." Yes or no, Kyrie? Are you sorry? How do you... And he's so stubborn about all this stuff, and has to be the smartest guy in the room, that I don't feel bad, because again, this is very different than Ime Udoka, but this is another situation where the guy made his bed, and now he's got to deal with the however long he's suspended, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be longer than 5 games. I do think, he'll come back at some point. I know there are some people saying, Kyrie's too proud and he's so principled. He's just going to say, screw it and retire. He doesn't care about the money. He doesn't need the money. He's not going to let anyone tell him what to do. It wouldn't surprise me in the least, by the way, if something like that happened. That would not surprise me. I don't think it will happen, but he's kind of like, he's an odd duck. He's one of those guys that could think that way.
Yeah. I personally don't think, Kyrie is anti-Semitic, but I do think that, he missed a lot of opportunities to just do exactly what you just said. And, like he said, man, he gets emotional sometimes. And I think sometimes, that is just a detriment to what he's trying to do. And it sucks, but that's what he has.
Unfortunately, it's more than emotional, right? It's defensive.
Yeah.
Defensive, if he were just willing to engage, and he hasn't, in those early conversations, like Nick Friedel, from ESPN, when he had kind of, that viral clip, that them going back and forth about the video, and Kyrie getting all pissy about it. If he was just, it was, Nick was being polite. He was just trying to get him to, so what is it about the video that stuck out to you? What would you like to express to people that maybe they're not seeing that you are? And he just, as soon as, and we've seen this going back to his time in Boston, his time in Cleveland, he's a person who, as soon as he gets challenged, he goes on the defensive and refuses to have any sort of intelligent dialogue. He just, tries to flip the whole thing around, and that's when it gets ugly, and that's when it gets dumb, for lack of a better word.
I think, his message gets lost in translation sometimes, he's word salad, but, let's get into the Celtics here, man. I think the Celtics are playing Detroit right now, and probably putting them away. I don't know if anybody.
Yeah, check my screen here. Yeah, it's a blowout. Couple minutes left. They're finishing off an 8-3 start here.
So it's Geno time, in other words?
Yeah, I don't. I'll tell you what. It's met the criteria for Geno time. I don't know if they're doing it, or if they're trying not to embarrass the Pistons. Who by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but it was 2 a.m. last night. I started just putting out tweets about this matchup. The Celtics have the best offensive rating in the league. Detroit has the worst. The Celtics enter this game on a 3-game winning streak. Detroit's won 3 games all year. Stuff like that. There was no universe in which the Celtics lost this game, let alone it not being a blowout. So but as Barry and I were talking before we came on, beat the bad teams. You got to beat the teams that are on your schedule, beat the bad teams. And they're going to see Detroit, twice in the span of 4 days. That should be 2 easy wins. And you got to try and keep up right now, because they're let's just project this one ahead to a win. They're 8-3. They could be 11-0, guys. Like 2 of those losses came to Cleveland in overtime, and the other one was a game they led in Chicago by 19 points before they blew it. So they could be 11-0, and I know it's like coulda, woulda, shoulda. It's like teams blow leads or lose in overtime, whatever. Nobody's perfect other than Milwaukee, I guess, but that's fine. So whatever, 8-3 is still obviously a very good start, and it's like a 60-win pace. But there are a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference we're learning, and we felt going into the year, and it's proven true. And that's even with teams like Brooklyn or Philly starting off slow and not getting on the right track yet. So it's going to be a very crowded conference in terms of standings and seeding and all that. By the end, you have to win these games.
Do you expect Joe Mazzulla to be named the head coach anytime soon, or are they going to wait till the end of the season? That's one question. And how do you think he's performed so far? Are you a fan of the no timeouts?
So to your first question, I do think they'll remove the interim tag at some point this year. I think it probably would have come even sooner once Ime was out of the picture. But now that Ime is, as we sit here again, not out of the picture and, back on Boston's future payroll until they, work out some sort of a settlement, mutual parting. Like if he had gone to Brooklyn, I think you would have seen Mazzulla's interim title removed in the coming weeks or month or whatever. Now I think it may take a little longer, but I do still think it'll happen at some point this year. I don't think it'll wait all the way until the off season. Maybe I'm wrong, but it will happen for sure. And he's their coach. As far as how he's done, no, I mean, he jokes about it too. And he's got a great personality for sure. Like he's very self-deprecating and funny and, a lot more personable, obviously, than Ime Udoka. He has kind of the same, straight wit that Brad Stevens has too. They seem very similar personalities. I think that he knows he's got to do a better job calling timeouts. And over the last couple of games, he's still figuring out the rotations. The offense has been incredible and has been, as good as we've seen in years. Like I said, it's the best in the league. They look like the Warriors out there, the way they're shooting the 3-pointer and tonight continued that. Sam Hauser is freaking automatic, a silver lining or even a blessing in disguise to Danilo Gallinari going down and Hauser getting this opportunity, obviously, and he's making the most of it. But, I think it's a lot of it you just have to remind yourself is learning on the fly. Like Joe Mazzulla had never coached anywhere above Division II college basketball before he got to Boston. And it wasn't even like there was this grace period or transition period in the offseason where he could really build up and make a plan for training camp. Like the Udoka stuff happened like 2 days before training camp started. And it was, all right, Joe, your show. Go ahead, buddy. Good luck. And I, everyone in that room has more experience than he does in terms of whether as a coach or players on the floor. Cause it's not like he played in the NBA either. So, they're losing a guy in Udoka who was incredibly experienced and successful. And they were coming back as this, kind of, this unit that had it all figured out and knew what they wanted to do. And now Mazzulla's got to implement some of his own stuff, and it's not wholesale different or anything like that, but he's changing some things on offense. He's certainly trying to figure out some stuff on defense. Part of that is Rob Williams not being back yet. You're missing, arguably the best defender on the team and one of the best in the league, and not having him for the first X number of games of the year, however many it winds up being before he does return. This is, just some of the, I hesitate to say growing pains because again, they're winning more often than not, but some of these little hurdles that they're having to overcome early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what's your overall feeling about the team, the start that they had this season? What's your overall feeling about that?
Overall, I'm pleased. I think that they haven't fully picked up from where they left off in terms of losing in the finals to the Warriors, again, defensively. But I do think it's kind of difficult to fully get a read on this team without Rob Williams in terms of what the defense, is going to look like. I think that's something that remains to be seen. But offensively, they're incredible. Jason Tatum is playing like an MVP. You know, this is the full-on superstar turn that we're seeing out of him. Jaylen Brown has been excellent. Malcolm Brogdon has been, you know, exactly what they were missing in the playoffs last year. You know, like you put Malcolm Brogdon on that team, you win the championship. I mean, that was he's very much the bench leader, the bench offense, the bench piece, and defensive abilities and all of it that they needed. Hauser being a sharpshooter off the bench. Peyton Pritchard hasn't even really gotten an opportunity this year, but, you know, he's back in there tonight after Brogdon went down with seemingly a minor injury. But this is a guy that, let's not forget, is a very capable shooter. Marcus Smart is, you know, he's not necessarily playing the same level of defense he did last year, but he's had a very good year. You know, Al Horford, you just try and keep him as youthful as humanly possible. This is a, you know, it's just such a deep, well-rounded team. Maybe you get Gallinari back at some point. I'm not holding my breath, nor do I think you need him either. And they have multiple trade player exceptions that expire mid-season that they can potentially use to lengthen their team and add to that bench as well. So I think, you know, overall, guys, they're in a very, very good spot. And, you know, them, and I bring up the Bruins as well for this reason. You know, like as miserable as the summer was with the Red Sox, we could have a very, very good winter and spring and early summer here in terms of Boston's winter sports teams that play at the Garden. And, you know, I don't know what the Patriots' ceiling is. If they wind up making the playoffs or not, they're probably a bubble team to get there. But I think there's a lot of excitement surrounding the Celtics and Bruins.
Are you as interested in Joe Mazzulla's gum chewing as everybody else?
The only, I guess the only level of interest I have with it really is I want to know how many pieces he goes through in a game, because he said
Two.
one?
No, he said two.
Yeah, one per half.
One per half.
Like, there's no chance, man.
What?
Think about when any of us chew a piece of gum. All right, and like, I don't chew a lot of gum. I used to. But think about when any of us chew a piece of gum. How long do you have a piece of gum really before the flavor is completely gone? Like, if it's like like one of those juicy fruit or something, it's gone in about 6 seconds. If it's something that's you know, the whatever, the winter, like green or like the orbits or whatever, like that, maybe you can get like 15 minutes out of that. So unless he is out there chewing a piece of gum for an hour plus that has zero flavor in it, and then doing it again in the second half, which would make him a maniac. Like, it would make, like, certifiably insane. Like, Joe, like, you're an NBA head coach now. You can afford to get yourself a whole pack of gum for a game if you want to. You can get 2 packs a game. You could change it out every commercial timeout if you really want to, because he, like, just going aggressive at that guy. Like, a buddy of mine texted me the other day. He's like, it looks like Ace Ventura out there chomping away. And it was just a perfect analogy too, because he does. There's no way he's only going through one piece a half.
That's hilarious.
No, it's definitely not. I'm not buying that either. I'm not sold on that either. I think that's egregious. In my opinion, to say the least, that it's only to a game and one. Perhaps that doesn't make any sense to me. But wanted to ask you, Adam, you know, I think early this season, I think we've seen, I don't know if you've seen this, but I think I've seen, you know, a difference to, you know, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's game. Are you seeing any difference in their game, you know, so far this season as opposed to last season? And do you think that finals loss will motivate this team and motivate those two guys and make them better players moving forward?
Well, I think they're incredibly motivated. I mean, they've talked about it. This is, you know, it was sort of a wake-up call in a lot of different ways. You know, I've made the comment in sort of talking about Tatum and Brown and their growth and evolution to this year before on my podcast, that, you know, it's one thing to go to the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times, as they have obviously in their careers before last year, and even including last year, and you get knocked out and it's like, man, we were there, but we still got things to accomplish. You know, we're not quite at the top of the mountain yet. We got to overcome. We got to get deeper. We got to add to this team. We got to take our games to another level. We got to whatever's on the checklist. When you get to the championship round, not that I can say this from personal experience, obviously, as a player, but as an observer or talking to athletes, when you get to the title round and you come 2 wins away, you're up in the series before you ultimately fall apart there. And you've reached the top of the mountain, but you're not the one that gets to plant the flag. You can taste it. You're that much hungrier. Now you know what it takes. Now, before you thought you knew, now you know what it takes when you actually get to that stage and you just weren't able to finish the job. You were good enough to finish the job, but you couldn't do it. The other team ultimately was better and you crumbled. You can go back to your houses feeling like, did they win or did we lose? Which was it? And I think there's a lot of soul searching that comes along with that for Tatum and Brown and Smart and Horford and any other guy that's back from last year that had never been at that stage before, which is most of their rotation, quite frankly. They can look at each other, in the mirror to themselves. They can, to a man, talk to one another and say, okay, now we know. Now we know we're going to have a target on our backs. We know what it's going to take. We know what we have to do. We know how we need to pace ourselves in terms of rest. We need to, control the ball. The turnovers were such a killer. We need to do X, Y, and Z defensively. We need to off it. You name it. Now they have the answers to the test. They just need to go out and take it. And I think that they are good enough, obviously, to go out there and do it. Now we just have to wait and see if ultimately they're able to emerge from the Eastern Conference, a very crowded, a very talented Eastern Conference, and be the ones to get the job done.
Absolutely. For sure. Adam, I think it's time for us to get you out of here, man. Again, thank you for coming on. I loved your answers, insightful answers for sure. Learn a lot from you, man, and you're a hardworking man. So again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate you, man. And you're always welcome to come back on the show.
I appreciate you guys. I look forward to it. It's always fun chatting with you.
Absolutely, man.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on again. Appreciate it, Adam. Good seeing you.
All right, guys. I'll see you soon.
All right, see you, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care. Have a good night.
You too.
Yes, sir. And there you guys have it. That was Adam Kaufman. Make sure you guys are following him. It's at Adam M. Kaufman on Twitter. The guy's a sports director at iHeartRadio, man, for the Boston cluster. So he knows what's going on and he's tapped in. So make sure you guys are following him. And of course, make sure you guys are following us. We're at ProFanSports on everything except for Instagram, and that's at ProFans_sports. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the channel, commenting, sharing the videos. It's the best way you can support us, man. So, again, thank you for the support. Really appreciate it. Until the next episode, man. We out of here.
Peace out, everyone. Have a good week. See y'all next week. Thanks for watching.